Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. I'm on the road this week, so that's happening, and I'm early because I got out of my meetings early, and so I wanted to just jump in and do this. So I don't know who's all here yet, as I'm starting earlier and just announced that a few minutes ago. But hopefully everyone's doing well. Hopefully everybody's having a good time. We're gonna hang out, just chill here for about an hour because I've got some stuff to do later this evening, and we can't miss a show, especially not this close uh, to especially not this close to our 10th anniversary. Next week will be the 10th anniversary show, and so my request for everyone is well, I want to know what your favorite show was, or memory was, or thing was from all of Warhammer Weekly. Anything we did that you happen to enjoy. I want you to drop that down in the comments at some point here, like after the show, because I need to go back and look through everything and try to put something together. So yeah, if you've got a favorite, if you've got a moment, if you've got a something and anything that that you thought was pretty cool, just tell me what episode it was in. Just give me the episode. Obviously, it won't let you put links down there. If you put a link, I think it'll probably block it. I don't. There's nothing I can do about that. Um. So, but just tell me the episode number, date, something like that. Whatever name, just point toward it. Okay. Oh, that was a fun one. Yes, the one notification, that was a good one. The uh, uh, the one where I had come back from surgery or whatever that day, or I was on a bunch of drugs. Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, look, we don't miss episodes. That's what's going down. Okay. Let me see here. Eric said, E-Rock said, "Hi Vince, love the channel. Just started up painting, and your hobby cheating video has been a game changer." Hey, that's awesome. Putting together some ogre maw tribes. That rules. Uh, Sound is clear, a little quiet. Oh, do I sound quiet to everybody? I can probably turn myself up just a little bit. Uh, let's see here. I'm not. I'm already kind of maxed out. Yeah, that's not going to do anything. That's fine. Hopefully that comes through a little better now. I think maybe. Anyways. Oh, my bad. Volume was down. Okay, that was all. All right, very good. How happy has Kathy been since Monday night? Well, I assume pretty happy. I've been on the road since like I had to get up at like 3:30 in the morning on Tuesday to go to where I am now. So I didn't even basically see her. Like I went to bed when the game was still on. But I assume she's happy. Goat Force McGoat, are you looking forward to Cathay for the old world after the LGOTs? Well, why? What a perfect segue into the news. So let's talk about a little news, shall we? Because we still have some. We're not just going to do other things. We got normal segments here. First of all, we got a little Trident here that looks like a KO thing. If you look at the base of the Trident, it looks very much similar to other KO items. We know KO have a book coming, as we'll talk about in the spoilers from LVO. And so, I would imagine that they're going to get something new when their book comes out. Hopefully more than just a random foot hero. That would be nice. KO is very much a force that needs some new options. So yeah, I would say it'd be really neat to have new forces for KO, and this clearly looks like a KO thing. Just like the join point is very similar in design to the existing KO weapons. All right. Grando Reaper, considering Windsor and Newton Series 7, difference between a round and a pointed round. In general, you just want the round. So, yeah. All right. Other news items. Well, of course, we had that LVO preview. We didn't do like a live react or anything, but it was pretty good. I gotta say. I was not expecting all of this. So we've got this new Death Rattle Army set. I don't know if CW is here, CW Kreiner, who's a regular longtime viewer, who I know is a huge skeleton fan. He's always disappointed. I would try to defend skeletons. He was not happy with how skeletons have worked for a long time. But I hope he's happy about this. This is certainly a lot of skeleton love. We have, like Mike, clearly we're going to fade out or phase out, I'm assuming, the old Grave Guard and the old Black Knights, and these are basically the replacements for them. And so, I mean, these guys are all amazing. They look so cool. I've got some individual pictures as well. But love this new set. Love the new like Barrow Guard, basically replacing Grave Guard, and then the Barrow Knights replacing the Black Knights or whatever. So that's cool. And obviously you've got two alt builds of the new Lord in the sort of White King or Barrow King or whatever he's called. So I thought this was a great set. I'm not sure I'm in love with the Wingy Wing helmets, but otherwise, this was like a pretty cool set. It's like literally my only minor pushback on what is otherwise a bunch of really exemplary things. Shout out to Christopher Nobbs for the super chat, who said, "Yay, long-time listener and first-time live show. Your first Age of Sigmar show got me back into Warhammer, and your War Paints review made me buy the first non-Citadel paints. Both life changers. Thanks for all you do." Oh, that's wonderful, Christopher. Well, I'm very happy to hear that, and thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you to everybody who super chats, hits like, hits subscribe, does all those things that make all those dings. It's deeply appreciated. I don't skip a week, so no matter what's going on, I always try to organize my flights, my schedule, my work, my everything around the show. It can sometimes be a little challenging, but I appreciate you all showing up because you all do the same thing, and you're here every week and watching, and I am eternally grateful to all of you for that. So yeah, I thought this was a pretty darn cool set. Pretty excited for it, like legitimately. As I said, the little wingy side helmets are the only thing I'm not sure about, but I suppose those could just be cut off. I kind of like just the simple pointed helmets, which is like if you cut off the little wings, the helmets look a lot like what the skeletons that exist now or the like Curse City skeletons look like. And I thought that was a cool helm design. I just didn't think like we needed the extra guys. But they're supposed to be special, so they get special things, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. Yeah, here's the little zoom in on the King. This dude rules. Like, this is fantastic. What a great model. They really are just knocking it out of the park with these mounted models recently. And I was like deeply impressed by this one. I thought this guy absolutely ruled. Sorry, I'm just moving my computer around here because it's hot on the thing it's on. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what else to say. Armor looks great. I love the layered nature to it. I love the extra details. Like, for a centerpiece cavalry general, he looks incredible. Yeah, it's kind of everything I would want there. So, like, I don't think I have any criticism for this guy. Again, maybe the tiny little weird points on the side of his helm, but, like, boy, is that minimal. And this guy has alternate heads in the box, so who even cares? Dadbot Napgod with a super chat saying, "Did y'all notice they didn't put the vamp lore on stream? Tinfoil says they only revealed it because of the White Dwarf leak, and there's another wave of SBGL coming that the Cav hero was supposed to be with." Maybe. I mean, like, boy, it'd be really cool to get even more refresh. Like, if this isn't all of it, which is entirely possible, I'd love more units. I mean, this is going to bring a lot of people into Soulblight Gravelords. Like, really a lot, because this new set is incredible. And speaking of vampires, yes, we have our new Prince Vorderai, who is on like a Draconith now. Basically, it's not a zombie dragon. It's not a Terrorgeist. It's sort of a new thing. As you can see, it has a different head. Like, basically, it'll be the equivalent of an actual zombie dragon. You can also build this guy without Prince Vorderai if you like, as you can just use it as the regular guy on foot. And my only response is, wow. Like, it's still going to poke the heck out of you, which I appreciate. I'll give one minor thing. On the existing like zombie dragon and terrorgeist, all the points, the bone, I don't know what you call them, like the little bone spurs that come off the end of the wings, I guess would technically be their little phalanges or whatever, are all like sharp and pointing straight up in the air. Whereas here, if you look, they're all curved, right? And I have to wonder if that's actually based on the designers realizing that this thing, whenever you reached around the table, those little hooks just like caught on everything and punctured your skin. And they like bent them like that for both like safety reasons, just so you don't catch it as often. Tyrant Worm with the super chat saying, I need help picking something for Adepticon. Something bust size, not too hellish to finish by March. So you're looking for a bust to paint for what? For what? Like you want to put it in Golden Demon, as so you want it to be in the open category for some other category? Are you talking like you want to model like for what, Tyrant Worm? Happy to help. Give me some more direction. Give me some more direction there, brother. Which contest is this for? How can I help? Let me get in there. Let me help you. Yeah, like this thing is awesome. I mean, like truly, truly exceptional. They didn't mention if he can just be the regular vampire lord on Zombie Dragon, although I assume he can. I assume there's like a version of this that also lets you just be the regular Velazda. But I guess time will tell. Maybe they did say it and I missed it and I didn't hear it. But I thought this guy ruled. Yeah, we'll talk about the roadmap here in a second, Legionnaires. Absolutely. So roadmap, because that's where we get to that stuff. So okay, we know we're about to get, Gits and Soulblight and all that stuff. The Oryx and the Ravaged Coast just came out, so that's all fine. Good stuff. And then upcoming next, we've got IDK and Nighthaunt. So the Nighthaunt one can't come. Honestly, I'm happy for both of those two. I think those are great next choices. I hope we see real changes in those two books. I really do. Because I think they're two armies that need changes. I think IDK is really good, but I think its skill floor is just a little too high right now. Like a very skilled player can actually do really well with IDK, but it is very hard to do well with IDK. I'm not sure that designing a book that's full of a bunch of cool models and then making it only really playable by like 5% of the population that plays the game is like a good strategy. Like I like high skill ceilings, but I don't love high skill floors on like you can have varying skill floors. I just don't love them being high. And Nighthaunt right now is just like it's like we could do with a ground up redesign. That thing had to be nerfed like 4 times since the index came out, and it's still a very strong army that's kind of just awful to play against. Dadbot Napgod coming in again with a $5 super chat saying, I love the composition. It's draped over the column, conveying its rotting body, and even the head is lazily lifted for its screaming. Beautiful model. Man, I agree. Like, it's really so good. It's so good. Okay, and then let's see. Tyrant Worm said, for Golden Demon, basically something the size of a larger, like 90 millimeter model. Okay, got it. So for Golden Demon. Sure. So, like, a big, like a dreadnought in vehicle category is always good if you like inorganic forms. There's plenty of like big-ish dreadnoughts, or like the smaller little knights, like the little tiny ones. Not the big guy, but I can't think of their names right now. But anyways, the smaller knights, like the dogs, hounds, something. I don't know. Either of those, chaos or normal, those are always good. But realistically, if you don't want to be too big, something like Sigvald the Magnificent is always a great choice. He's bigger. All of those characters, they're kind of done like 54 mil guys. So if you don't want to go too big, he's a very reasonable goal for you to get done in the next 2 months. Like you don't want to set your goal too high because you're going to need to spend a lot of time working on it. But something like Sigvald the Magnificent or Silesk, something like that is good. If you want to go bigger than, a Keeper of Secrets, like a Greater Demon is always a really excellent choice. And a Keeper is just an absolutely beautiful model, really fun to paint, lots of negative space, very good to work with, lots of ability to show off what's happening. You are watching this live, the Hobbyist Printer. So yeah, something like that would probably be good. Like those are all good choices. If none of those work for you, I can probably throw more options at you. All right, let's talk about what's on the horizon because we're clearly getting stuff there. So it's Corn, KO, and FEC, which is exciting. So those are our next three books, which is cool. And obviously the KO one ties in with the Trident we saw in the Rumor Engine. So that's good. Ooh, Mega Boss on foot, Lewis. That's also a great suggestion. Yeah, absolutely. Sigvald and the Keeper, I've painted, all of those. I painted like 5 Keepers of Secrets and multiple Sigvalds. And I will say they're a pure joy to paint. So just absolutely fun. And I will also agree with Dwight of the Dead that if you're into like Nurgle and Gross and stuff like that, the Great Unclean one is a very fun model. He's big, a lot of space to work with, that kind of thing. 100%. Okay. So, that's cool. And then they kind of end with this weird teaser of these glowing green eyes. Yeah, no idea. I mean, a lot of people have thought it's them signaling Chaos Dwarves because of various and sundry things. Maybe it is. I mean, like, again, I've said I have no problem if they do Chaos Dwarves as long as the Chaos Dwarves aren't just like a repackage of original Chaos Dwarves, which I find to be like kind of boring and rote and belong in the old world. But if they're reimagined as like smiths and engineers using evil demon-fed golem steam engines and like death trains that are souped up with chaos energies and stuff like that, like, yeah, sure, there's a version of that I could imagine existing that would absolutely rock, and I hope that's what it is. Odepa, do you think Korn is likely to keep its Johnniness going forward? Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think Korn is just locked into being a Johnny army for all time. I don't think it'll ever really be the like Blood for the Blood God, simple brutish army that it probably could or should be in its sort of baseline form. I think it'll basically always be that way because I think there's a cohort of people within the design team that like that and want that to continue going forward. So that's it. I don't think it shouldn't have a Johnny nature to it. That is to say, like, I would like it to just have more Timmy with like Johnny angles. But if Gareth were here, he'd be very angry at me. There you go. At saying that he wants it to be more Johnny. So I don't know. Like, ultimately, I just want it to be a book that someone who just wants to play Smashy Smash and like yell Blood for the Blood God can play with and be happy. But also, like, you're very tactically minded, careful player can also play and be happy with. And it doesn't seem like that should be an impossible task. I think that, honestly, Ironjaws did that for a long time. I'm not sure their new book actually does that, but that's fine. With the new Zombie Dragon kit, what do you think becomes of FEC's Zombie Dragon? I don't think GW wants multi-army kits anymore. Yeah, I don't know, is my honest answer. Because I mean, FEC has a book coming out here as well in the little on the horizon thing. So, it could very well change with that book. They could release some new model for them at that point, and that's when we could see. So my guess is we might not know in this interim period in between when like the Soulblight book comes out and the FEC book comes out, right? So, I think we're in the army set era, Andrew, pretty firmly. Because they saw that the problem with other than launch boxes, which will continue to have, 2 army sets in it. But like, I think we're firmly in this box era. They've realized these boxes are good moneymakers. I mean, I don't think it's more complicated than that, right? Yeah, I mean, it's just, strategically, it's just a pretty good play to like, have this box. It comes to the book, comes to everything you need. It encourages new people to get into it. They sell well. They probably have a good margin. Like, yeah, I don't think we need to look at it more complicated than that. And like, the reality is the economics on a 2-player box, on a 2 army box, just aren't the same. Because you're just not going to get the same traction with them. So, yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. All right. And I see that I see Anthony. By the way, Anthony, thank you for the bases. It was deeply appreciated. There will be a video coming on Skaven bases sometime soon. So that's that's that. So thank you, Anthony. I am deeply appreciative of you helping me out and hooking me up. They all got here without issue, and now I got to paint. Not a lot of time left after I get back from this trip to finish everything up. So there we go. They're trying to negotiate getting me down to North Carolina. Hey, anything's possible. Do I think Warcry is going away? No, but it wouldn't. But if it did, it wouldn't incredibly shock me. I think they're probably trying to figure out what they want to do with it. That's my answer. All right, that's kind of. And then other news. Yes, we saw the Old World roadmap and rumors as well. I am pretty excited for Cathay. I think that's going to be cool. We got the pretty clear signal that that's what they're going to do. It's what I want them to do with the Old World, honestly, is not just retread the same stuff over and over again. Like, I would love it if we actually went and explored other corners of the Old World. Things that were in name, yes, you could bring stuff back, like, like I would love to see, I'd love to see like Dogs of War formally come back. That would really excite me in some way, with a sort of refresh. But like explore the other corners of the world. It's a big world. It had a lot of different stories that were told in it over the time. Don't just limit yourself to those. So, Cathay, I'm excited to see what it is. I mean, obviously we haven't seen a single model. We've seen a hint toward it. So I never get too excited about such nonsense because like I'm not someone, I don't care. I don't care about your ideas. What matters is what you do. And like, so if the models come out and they're all garbo, then I'm not going to be excited for it and I'll feel let down. But I don't get excited for things, so I don't get disappointed by things. Like, results matter. Ideas are worthless. That's life. So there you go. Okay. So do I think demons are going away I don't know. I saw with the Emperor's Children the story that they will be combined. They could still do it as its own thing, an army. Like, there's lots of ways they could cut that up. Yeah, who knows? I mean, they could do it through web articles. They could do it through, different stuff. So, like, maybe they get a codex, maybe they don't. Maybe they put out something different. Maybe they move all the demons into the main books and then have some other way to bring them together. Like, it's just... like there's lots of in the same way I don't get excited for things that are just rumors and ideas. I don't catastrophize things that are ideas or rumors either, right? Like, there's lots of ways to slice a cat. They will change their business models over time. So there you go. When's the next Warhammer the Old World show? I don't know. Sometime, probably in February. I think we're going to do one, I would imagine. Because I do want to kind of talk about elves. So I'm sure at some point we'll talk about elves. Yeah, that's Tom's a big old High Elf fan, and so I think Tom and I might do an Old World High Elf show whenever that becomes available. So, Fancy Teeth, thank you for the super chat. Said, saw your Auric Battle Tome review, and I am toying with a Cruel Boys monster list. What would a making the best out of a bad situation video look like? That's a good idea. I think that's a great idea for a video. Of like really focusing in on some of the underperforming armies and talking about like, okay, what's the sort of best version of this? Yeah, so I think that's right. Okay, let's leave correct. I mean, yes, one of my wedding gifts from my wife to me, okay, was a framed quote of Epictetus. So, yes, like, I got married in 2003. My degree is in philosophy. I have a lot of philosophical heroes and things I draw on. Certainly the Stoics are one of them, but I'm not, like, the Stoics recently have come into fashion in this silly armchair dumb way of people not really engaging with the true philosophy that is frustrating to me. But at any rate, yes, there's a lot that you can value out of the Stoics, as well as many other philosophies that were emerged over the literal 2 millennia since they started giving their thoughts. I would hope my I think people should, in general, like, I think there should be more study of philosophy. That's my honest answer. People don't say, yeah, like, this is just Vince going off. But I think philosophy should be a regular high school course, and you should be taught a basic history and the concepts of philosophy, starting out from pre-Socratic through to, like, I don't know, at minimum, probably the 1920s or 30s, like up to existentialism and absurdism and stuff like that. So there you go. There you go. That's how Vince would change the world. Okay. Dark Horse said, I really hope FEC gets ghoul archers. That would be great. That would be cool. Yeah, I'm for that. Let's do it. God Santa, what do I do with base edges? Do I paint it like ground or paint it black? Black. You can have it any color you like as long as it's black. Because it is meant to be a picture frame. It is the edge. It is not part of the universe. So like that hexagonal or whatever, that shape, not hexagonal, sorry, anyways, that shape is not part of the figure's universe. So it's black to separate them from everything else that's in the normal world. So there you go. K Fox says, I took philosophy 101 in college and I loved it. Well, good. Yeah. And you're supposed to argue with the teacher. That's okay. It's very Gaharchers. Yes, absolutely. There's no, that's fine. There's a lot of interesting, like a lot of early philosophy was very concerned with physics and stuff like that. And obviously, as the hard sciences evolved, that's better. It grew a lot. Let's see here. What is a good approach to better developing of understanding light on models? For example, I understand that I end up washing away my shadows with overkill on highlights. The real world is really my example. If you just Google like light on faces, teaching example, or, light on a ball or on shapes, like you'll see a lot how different lights, different materials can interact. Like light itself is a lifetime of study. There's no simple answer to it. But just like take pictures with your phone, like get a flashlight, stand in a room, change the light around, move it with your flashlight around. Like, there's lots of things you can do to just take your own reference photos and like look how the light is interacting with you, with your face, with the materials, with the other light in the room. And like the real world is always going to be your best teacher, like 100%. Okay. Speaking of which, let's just jump in straight into that hobby AMA. I'm just going to put this back up. There you go. Fancy Teeth with the chat. My favorite term paper I wrote was on Chinese philosophy and the importance of propriety in society. What do you think we lose by discarding propriety? Oh boy, what a deep discussion that would be. All right, Fancy Teeth, I'll give you an answer. Society in general, societies, cultures, have historically had quite a swinging pendulum with propriety. There are differences in how cultures interpret propriety, largely based along the axis of how they value individualism versus communalism. And so different societies will value, and sort of it ends up working in this sort of perpendicular fashion to it. And so how a culture interprets propriety will vary a lot based on that particular element. And propriety itself, it creates general feelings of like sort of safety and things like that within interactions. It creates governable rules people can act by, but it also can end up being quite restricting and be a stricture to people who fall outside of the norms for various and sundry reasons, be that sort of neurodivergence or otherwise. And so you're always walking a sort of dangerous line in between those two polar ends. My general feeling is, that there's a certain amount of propriety you always want to have within a culture, regardless of your views on individualism, because for the most reductive answer ever, we live in a society. But at the same time, you have to be very careful because all choices like that are double-edged swords. How about that? There you go. All right. we could go deeper, but I do want to answer, hobby questions. Ostensibly what I'm here for. But this is a good question. If you want me to do like a philosophy show sometime, you can tell me. Just put it in the comments or something. We can do a whole philosophy show. That's fine. Any tips on painting tiny non-metallic metal bullets on a bandolier, finding I don't have the same space as I do on full armor plating? Yeah, jump a lot of contrast very quickly. You don't need much room. So that is to say, when you're dealing with very tiny NMM, the key is to go from like very dark up to very light and not really worry about the blend. You're basically going to go through like 3 tones on something tiny like that, and it's going to sell because your brain will make it work. Okay? What I mean by that is you kind of have like a very dark area, mid, dot of white light, good. You'll sell the NMM. It's more or less that simple. Okay. Let's see. Is Season Sigmar a good starting army coming from competitive 40k? It's kind of in a mid-range right now, low end of mid-range, probably, to be fair. It's a very complicated army to paint, but it sounds like you've already painted armies before, so that's not really a challenge to you. It's certainly an extremely varied force, so like over time it's a good investment because it has like tons of different options. I don't know what's going to become of the like dark elf and dwarf stuff on the long term, so that's kind of a risk. But like overall, I do think it is an army that does have a pretty high skill ceiling, and it really will respond well if you're a good player, as shown this last weekend at LVO, where Cities took the championship for the 3rd time in a row. So yeah, there you go. That's my answer. Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. A little stinker says walk around the neighborhood, look at how light interacts with different materials. I think that's a great idea. Okay. How often do you strip a model and totally start over? Approaching 0% of the time. I do not strip models unless they got a bad prime or something like that. Like if there's physical texture on the model, I'll prime and I'll strip and start over. Otherwise, no, I just repaint it. Like if I was upset, I would just keep painting. I just keep painting and keep painting and paint over it 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 and keep painting and paint over it. You can put many layers of paint on a thing before it matters. Let's see. How well ventilated is the room you airbrush in? Not very, but I have like the room itself's not incredibly well ventilated, but I wear a mask and I have like a filter box that pulls all the air through a little HEPA filter. So in general, that's good enough because it's draining everything out and the mask is running. So, nothing's really like floating in the air too much. It's stressed a lot if you're going to use like toxic paints. You want to be very careful with that stuff. If you're using like acrylics, as long as you've got a mask and you have the filter running and you've got a good HEPA filter, you'll generally be okay. Hi Vince, what's your thoughts on unifying color palettes by mixing in a mother color to all your other paints? Yeah, it's fine. I do it all the time with like highlights and shadows. I mean, you can certainly add tones and stuff like that. You can bring a little green into everything. You don't always necessarily just mix the same. Like the mother color isn't necessarily mixing the same color into everything. It can be just shifting things a step toward that color, which may or may not involve mixing that paint in. But yeah, I think it's very fun. I actually did a video on like unified sort of single color, monocolor paint jobs and how to keep them varied and interesting and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's good. Okay. I know this will sound backwards, but how can you approach improving TMM? I've spent a lot of time on NMM and I'm happy about it, but sometimes it just takes too long. Import as many lessons as you can from NMM into your TMM. So that means integrating filter colors, integrating deep shadows with matte paints and controlling the light, integrating bright silvers and clean edge highlights. Like many of the same lessons from NMM can translate over into TMM. You can just do it faster, but it's the same rules. Texture, use that, scratches, things like that sell the realism, all of that. Tom Coons, since inks are so thin, do you paint with them like contrast paint or are there other special considerations? You can use them as glazes, you can thin them for filters, you can apply them as sort of normal paints. They will be very transparent, so you have to consider your undershading. You can use them through an airbrush to do other glazes or color shifts or stuff like that. You can use them more thickly, mix with a little flow improver to act more like contrast paint. Like there's so many options. So yeah, there you go. Ugg says, I'm getting annihilated trying to figure out how to get skin to look good. It looks fine as I layer up, but when I get to the glazing, I'm confused about what colors to use, especially on a small mini. Well, I have lots of videos on it, but effectively, the shortest answer, Ugg, is you're taking, like whatever a step down is from where that line is you're working on, and you're glazing that. You're glazing each transition. You're not covering the whole thing necessarily. You're working up and down, back and forth. So you're going to kind of glaze with like half steps effectively of every color progression you did. If you used 5 colors on the way up, then you're going to use 5 more half steps on the way down in thin glazes. That's really the easiest way to explain it. This is very specific. How do I make ivory horns different from the pale fur of my gray seers? Inject more brown and orange into the horns through thin filters or glazes, like even something like Seraphim Sepia, and pull more blue-gray into the fur. So there you go. I'll actually have a video kind of about that relatively soon. So there you go, Dominic. Lord Vladek. I want to start using an airbrush. Any recommendations for a compressor? I fear I'm prone to gear acquisition syndrome. Okay, don't buy the best thing. You need a simple compressor with a tank. Some generic master thing or whatever off of Amazon is all you need, because they all last the same amount of time and are equally likely to break. Even the very expensive ones, because they're all manufactured in like the same plants in China. So like, do not overspend your money on a compressor. Get a decent compressor with a tank and a water trap, and you're good to go. That's all you need. Okay. Mir, do you have any suggestions for plinth sizes for competition pieces? I'm doing a guardsman-sized fig, but can't figure what dimension the plinth should be. Not much bigger than the figure. A 1:1 to 1.7 ratio, standard golden ratio thing. So, like, if the figure in the background, like if it's a normal 32 mil figure, you do not want the plinth to be that much bigger than them. Is really the answer. Like, because that creates bad negative space. So like if the figure is, I don't know, roughly an inch around, then it's like, a little shy of 2 inches for the plinth or something like that, 1.5 inch plinth in diameter is fine. That kind of thing. Philosopher Hammer weekly show sounds fun. Absolutely. I stopped my hobby at the built model. Gray. Am I wrong? Hey, look, if you're happy, then that's fine. But I mean, I would say probably paint them. Are there good resources for finding new model companies? Yeah, asking in chats like this or, stuff like that. Like there's lots of great model companies out there, but there's no like single unified resource I've ever really seen. Marcus, hobby question. What exercises on brush control can I practice so I don't undo my previous work and ruin the area I'm already working in? Just doing detailed work. Do it with a set of like sexy gogs on so you can really see what you're doing, and just do it a lot. Brush control is a thing of time. Time and doing detail work. The more you do it, the better and more fine your brush control becomes. So you just like pick a fig with detail and watch yourself closely and do it. Paint the bags and belts and boots and buckles and things like that and go for it. Okay. That's really the answer. I mean, I'm sorry that one has a very specific answer or like a very silly answer, sort of just time, but it's very specific practice and then putting on like the gogs and seeing how you're actually doing. How do you stay so motivated all the time? Sometimes when I'm painting, I find myself getting something akin to frustrated with my skills. Do you have those thoughts, or how do you get through them? Yeah, I love painting. It's something that I find very mentally rewarding. I use it to de-stress. Certainly there's times where I'm frustrated. That happens, of course, to everybody at all levels. There is no level where that will stop. You'll just have more ideas about how you can get yourself out of it. I'm motivated by all of you is the short answer. Like the people I share this stuff with and the responses I get, the comments, the chats, super chats, the feedback, the meeting people in person, like that's incredibly motivating to keep going, right? And so, it keeps me painting. And like if something is just really frustrating, if it's super frustrating, there's a level where I'll just quit. I'll just put that fig away. Like it's not worth finishing if I don't think so. It's okay to quit things. That's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I'll go to things I like, and then I have fun painting again and keep going. Let's see. Radio Free Hammer Hall. What's up, Paul? Question. I am working on a synthwave Slanesh army. What's your hottest tip on making fluorescence pop? White undershade first. I have a couple videos on how to paint with fluorescence. Put white underneath them first, then lay them over the top, at least 2 to 3 thin coats of the fluorescent, and then blend them back in with matte paints, like non-fluorescent paints afterward. Okay. But yeah, getting that white underneath is really the key. X-Cool said, howdy Vince, I want to paint up some OBR as the God Eternals from War of the Spark. Okay. Any advice on paints techniques for getting a good dark blue metallic without an airbrush? Yeah, do just what I did go watch my Alpha Legion video. In that I did use an airbrush, but there's no reason you have to. You're going to paint everything in black to silver first, then you're going to do with a brush, which is fine, like a thin Tamiya or something like that, like a candy coat over the top. There's lots of options for candy coats out there. Tamiya has them, other companies have them, but like a thin, glossy, dark blue over the top. That's what you're gonna do. And it'll let the silver kick out and it'll rock and roll. You can apply it with just a brush straight on top. You can do the black to silver just up through dry brushing. Don't need an airbrush for it. There you go. Okay. What's your opinion on 4th edition compared to 3rd so far? Tournament attendance is down and sentiment amongst competitive players is that some are unhappy with the game comparatively. I'm not sure tournament attendance is down. I don't think that's true. Everything I've seen actually says tournament attendance continues to go up. But if you've got a data source you can point me toward, I'll happily revise that opinion. But the data sources that I have access to say that tournament attendance is up. Now, what do I think of the edition overall? I've played a lot of games of it. I mean, I've played probably 70 games, I think, so far. I like it a lot, but there are things that frustrate me. My biggest frustration, I think it's a very balanced game. I think there's a lot of interesting things. My biggest frustration is I wish the battle tomes had more evolution of the armies in them. I think that's going to be looked back as the biggest flaw of 4th. I think a lot of other things we could fix with like seasonal changes and stuff like that. I think I think on the whole the game is pretty good. I just think it's stuff like manifestations are silly and still need to be reined in. The bad universal manifestation lore should be knocked way down. And the book should be coming out with actual valuable new rules that enrich and enliven and expand the armies. So there you go. But overall, yeah, I'm happy. Like there's always things I want to be better, but I'm happy. Sir Arthur Dane, I realize this is broad, but what advice would you give to someone who wants to start painting miniatures? What's the best course of action to get a reasonable standard quickly? Watch my beginner playlist or other people's beginner videos. Understand the very fundamentals of like this is a brush and this is how you thin paint and stuff like that. And begin. Like that's really it. Like just jump into it. Your keys for getting to a good standard quickly are going to be about understanding those fundamentals. Like that's really the case. And finding figures that you like and are interested in painting. But like learn the basics of brush control, thinning paint, those kinds of things. Basics of color theory like color composition, very, very basics. And you'll get to a good place. Fancy Teeth with the super chat saying, when working with contrast paints, do you prefer zenithal highlighting or slap chop? What do you lose or gain from either method? It's basically the same thing. They're both. Slap chop is just zenithal highlighting with a dry brush. It's no difference. What do you gain when you zenithal through an airbrush? It's a more smooth transition. That's it. But they're both the same thing. So yeah. Okay. I got to move faster. All right. But yeah, I mean, it's literally the same thing. You're just eliminating some of the roughness. Okay. Let's see. All right. Hey, Vince, not a super participatory viewer. That's okay, Aeronautical. But how do you strike a balance between painting and real life priorities? I always want to give myself 2 hours a session, but I find it hard to fit it in. You understand that real life is more important. Your kids, your family, your wife, your partner, your health, all those things are also important. And you set aside the time you can, you make a schedule, and you don't beat yourself up when you don't meet it. You just get back to it, and if you can do it the 2 hours the next day, then you do. And if you can't, then you can't. And you do your best. And that's really the key. It's there as a hobby. You're there to grow, but you're not there to. It's not there to be the sort of Damocles hanging over your head. So let yourself fail with grace. Just give yourself the grace to succeed and to fail. What is a superior highlight method for contrast paints? Oh, that's why we answered that one. All right, cool. Okay. Boo. The soothsayer. What's your opinion on going back to old paint jobs? Yeah, nothing wrong with it. You can go back and give old models some touch-ups, some love. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's generally something I don't do. I prefer to move on to something new. I find it to be a better use of my time. But if you've got things that you really want to, enliven, it's very easy. It's easier than you think it is. I think people often don't do it because they imagine it's going to be very hard. But when you actually just pick up the model and all you're doing is the end steps, all the slow base coating and all those boring things have already been done, it's unbelievably fast to go back and spruce up your old models. JT, recently got started with the hobby and I'm a bit stuck on the Lord Vigilant on Griftstalker. How can I get a pigeon gray color on the feathers and it not come out muddy? I am not sure what you're doing to make it muddy, but if I was going to paint, I have videos on doing detailed feathers, and I would basically follow that with the gray tones, but I would paint it like a relatively middle dark cold gray. Then I would come in and do hashes with a lighter gray and then hashes with an even lighter gray above that. All in a cold spectrum, and there you go. I've got some videos on painting feathers, so I'd say go check that out. There you go. Hey Vince, do you ever get into something new and find yourself not wanting to paint as much? Recently got into TCGs and haven't been wanting to paint quite as much. Cody, I play Magic on the regular every week. I play D&D on the regular every week, and I do this I play Warhammer every week. My life is very carefully scheduled and balanced to allow for those things. I make time. And so, no, I've been a nerd forever. No, painting is really a huge part of my life because, this is part of how I make my living. So, I don't really find things drawing me away, but also I'm painting a lot of things that I deeply love. And so, when I'm doing display figures or something like that, that other stuff doesn't really draw me away. Yeah, that's the simplest answer. But there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. If other things catch your interest, follow your passion. Just make sure it's not something that's just you shoveling time down a hole or lighting it on fire. You only have so many hours in your life, and doing things that create actual, real, long-term positive growth, improvement, satisfaction, stuff like that, I think are important. So, in other words, playing a TCG with your friends, I think is actually an incredibly valid thing to go do, because I always ask the question to myself, if I'm sitting on my deathbed and I look back, what am I going to say I wish I did more of? And spending more time with friends and family and the people I love, I think would be pretty high on that list. So I think that's a perfectly valid use of your time. That's a great thing to be doing. But, painting and growing and creating art, I think is also something I would list, right? So, follow your bliss there. Are inks toxic through an airbrush? No, as long as they're still acrylic inks. There's no difference between them and paint. I want to add icicles to my Alarial model. How would you make icicles? I have a video specifically on making icicles. The simplest answer is the plastic tines to a clear plastic fork. But go back and watch my icicle videos, and I'll show you how to make icicles. Hey Vince, is there a complete guide out there which undershades go well with what color, like pink with yellow or green with red? No, not that I know of. But my real answer is I'm not sure you really could do it. Lots of things, because everything will shift it around. It's more like, if you understand, those videos are just called color theory, okay? Why does pink work under yellow? Because of color theory. Why does red work as a substrate for green? Because of color theory, and they're, contrasting colors or whatever, complementary colors. So just like any video on color theory and understanding what's complementary and good triadic schemes and stuff like that, is a good answer there. Terry Orhala said, I sure wish I spent more time scrolling through 15-second videos. Yeah, exactly. I can't imagine, we're not going to get into that, but yes, that is a terrible waste of your life. Okay. Let's see. Hey, the end. Yes, I am doing great. Thank you. Ryan said, hope you're doing well. Appreciate everything you do. Thank you. Vince, do you do any sculpting? No, God, no. I hate sculpting. I did it once and realized that I hated it and it wasn't for me. There you go. Which is fine. Try things. Sometimes you'll figure out that like they're not for you. And I did it once and was like, nope, I hate this. This is not for me. There you go. Okay. As for teachers, I mean, there's some artists who have sculpting Patreons, so I just look into that. I couldn't really direct you. I'm sorry. How do I work out the playstyle of each army? How many models get fielded for each army? Well, we have some videos on that. You go back in the Warhammer Weekly playlist. We talk about the playstyles of the armies and stuff like that. So kind of when we do the psychographic profiles episodes, we talk about that stuff. There you go. So that's probably a good thing. But just, watch our individual breakdowns of the army. We talk about playstyles and kind of model counts and things like that. If you want to do like the index reviews, do a good job of covering all that as well. Edgar Bea says, the closer I get to finishing a model, the more I phone it in. I paint great faces and weapons first, but once I get the rest, I'm half effort and the model's inconsistent. Well, so first of all, you can phone it in on lesser view details. Bases, faces, weapons, and shields or banners are the old saying for a reason. If you're painting an army, there's nothing wrong with phoning it in. That's actually completely fine, like because people aren't paying attention to those little details. Now, if you want to continue growing, then the answer is you have to build up your endurance muscle, just like anything else. Like force yourself to actually put in the time, and it will become easier. The more you do it, like it's no different than like how do you bench press 450 pounds or whatever. How do you bench press something insane? Well, you're not going to go from whatever you're benching now to that, right? You've got to build up that muscle the same way, right? So, you're going to have to bench 100 and then 120 and 130 and 135 and 140 and so on, over years of work. It's building up that muscle. Is there a way to fill in the mouth of the Soul Blight so they have a full set of teeth? Particularly the Blood Knights, they look kind of nerdy with the buck teeth. Boy, not that I could think of without very tiny green stuff sculpting. Z Ramirez with the super chat saying, Goobertown did a great color shade combo vid. Oh, there you go. Cool. Very nice. All right. Betty Oshoff said I'd be up for a philosophy night. I get to use my pre-law degree. Very nice. Hey everyone, so I'm working on Fire Slayers, but I haven't done any large monsters before. Any recommendations for painting up large monsters like Magmadroths? I've got a couple videos on doing big models, large models, monsters. I mean, Magmadroths are pretty easy because they're heavily textured. So, like, honestly, dry brushing is a pretty quick way to go fast. Go back and watch the when I painted an Auric army in a weekend video. My Iron Jaws, not my Iron Jaws, but the ones I did for Tyler. Go back and watch that. That has a lot of good advice for big monsters in it because I actually show the big Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. Basically, watch the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher video. That'll point you in the right direction. Okay. More of a request. Would love to see a hobby cheating on display painting versus army painting. Well, I've talked about it a few times. I actually did one, Paul. I talked about how it's philosophy, right? And with army painting, you're painting to time. With display painting, you're painting to result. So that, like, which one is your governor switch? Beyond that, there's not much. It doesn't have to be much difference. Let's see. Not James from Alaska. Also, what do you think are the top 4 highest skill floor armies in AOS 4? Oh boy, the top 4 highest skill floor armies. KO, IDK, Doc, and maybe Korn or Slanesh. That's probably my answer. Something like that. Flumpor says, I am a somewhat new painter, but I often have reverse issues from what is expected from my skill level. OSL or female skin is easy, but I struggle with Space Marine armor and trim. Any tips to improve? Well, it depends on exactly what you're running into. Like, what's the specific challenges? Is it a question of, like, smoothness or, the result? Like, it would... The answer is... You need to do an RCA of like, what's the actual problem you're running into? What's underneath that? Why is that armor giving you problems? Why is that trim giving you problems? Is it brush control? Is it color composition, and then, you know, go focus in and actually work that specific thing. That would be my answer. Like, you got to get to the sort of root of the problem, because there's nothing innately difficult about Space Marine armor. I'm not trying to say anything. I'm just saying, like, there's nothing innately different about it. Yeah, so there you go. Okay. All right. Let's see here. We've got main event Virgil saying, want to know how to achieve something I haven't done before. Your channel is the first stop. A true hero. Oh, thank you. Question: can you highlight a cold color in a warm environment without it getting very desaturated? Okay, got it. Yeah, sure. So the answer is you don't need much of the highlight, and you can use warm tones, like use sunny skin tones and stuff like that, or oranges or yellows, and make them fairly minimal. And as long as the midtone is still taking up a lot of the space, it won't feel very desaturated. Remember, your highlights, like if you go look at a shiny red car, very little of that car is actually red. Your brain is just smoothing that out in a big way. Like, actually look at a picture of a shiny red car in sunlight, and almost none of that car is red. But your brain still easily interprets that as a red car. As long as about 50% of the space is in the midtone, then you'll be fine, and you'll have the rest of that stuff there. Like, it'll still feel like the thing. Okay, let's see. Boom. Do you have a video about brush care? Yes, I do. It is in the playlist. I talk all about brush care in a couple different videos, and how to care for them and how to clean them and everything like that. 100%. Go check it out. Let's see. If you have someone who is wanting to get into the hobby but frozen due to anxiety, how do you help them get over that fear? Sit down and paint with them. Sit down and paint like 3 models with them and show them there's absolutely nothing scary. Make them comfortable with the fact they're going to fail, and that's fine. It's fine. They can fail. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, failing is not bad. It's the first step to learning. Tips for dealing with analysis paralysis when picking a new army. Boy, I wish I had a good answer for you on that one. Throw some bases on the table or proxies. Play a couple of them. See what grabs you. You know, grab one or couple models from a couple different armies and see what excites you to paint. You know, like grab some Underworld warbands or something, you know, and see what actually gets your juices flowing. Yeah, that's probably a couple things like that. In other words, do some test runs, some pilots, some proof of concepts. That's my best answer. Norgul, do you have a cutoff for when to paint in sub-assemblies? So I almost never do sub-assemblies unless I am absolutely forced to. Generally, the only thing I will always do is separate the horse from the rider, if that's possible. I find that to make things a lot easier. Like the mount from the rider, I should say. But yeah, like, frankly, I basically never do it. And I don't believe you should. You should always assemble the model as fully as possible. If the thing is really hidden and impossible to see, then no one can see it. Who are you painting it for? God? Are you worried that the omniscient force from above will be able to see your model and judge you for not painting that extremely hidden part under the arm tucked in between the shield and the body? Who cares? Who cares? Let it be in deep shadow. Just let it stay black. It's fine. Like, that's fine. It's more than fine. You know, paint more, not don't kill yourself. That's a really simple answer. Okay. Let's see. Peppo saying, can't wait to watch this hotel show at work tomorrow. Very good. Let's see. Faces and bases. Okay. With the super chat saying, congratulations in advance for the show anniversary and thanks for the insane amount of helpful hobby content. Do you have any tips for staying comfortable and motivated on long painting sessions? Yes. Good chair is important. Adjusted to the right height. Make sure you've got somewhere comfortable to rest your elbows and arms. Make sure you're stable. Make sure you have a really good light. Something like the Game Envy light I would recommend. Like, obviously, that I love that light. I do not know what I did before that light. It's insane I even painted before I owned that light. Like, it's so different. A good light will lessen eye strain. A good paint holder will lessen arm and wrist strain. A good chair will lessen back strain. Like, all of those things together will allow you to paint for really long sessions. Yes, exactly. God will find my blends wanting. He will find all of us, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Do you balance the ratio of Display versus army models you paint. Yeah, absolutely. I go back and forth. Like, that's how I balance my hobby out. Paint some armies, paint a display model. Paint some army stuff, paint a display model. Keeps everything fresh. I like going back and forth. It's the one for them, one for me principle of like Scorsese or similar. Yep. Yep, agree with you, Bochette. I think that's right. Will you ever play 40K again? If they introduce an edition that doesn't, that isn't a mess, I'd like to. I have painted 40K armies. I'd like to play it again. I had fun when 8th came out, but you know, I need rules that aren't an absolute mess. I've just put not James Molesky. I've just played my first game of Magic, and I now own an entire precon deck for Commander. Yep. Well, we will continue to constantly talk about it. I'm sure. Don't worry. That will happen. What do I thin matte varnish with? Just a couple drops of your regular airbrush thinner. I use my standard 80-20 mix of airbrush thinner and flow improver. We're gonna have to wrap it up here soon, so I'll try to move quickly. As the great philosopher Dr. Teeth said, "Ain't nothing to it but to do it." That's right. What's your favorite color? Probably solo purple together teal plus magenta. What is a color you want to use more? Orange. I think I don't use enough orange. Will I be doing a review on the Army Painter set? Yes, the John Blanche set. Yeah, eventually I will. Yeah, absolutely. I've got to paint with it for a while first. I don't like to just crack out set reviews. I like to actually give them some paint. I am actually experimenting with them right now. I like them so far. Any advice for dealing with analysis paralysis for picking a color scheme? Yeah, just spend a lot of time looking at how other people have painted them, color schemes on armies. Use the little color picker cards, anything like that. Spin a color wheel and find a triadic scheme that looks cool. Anything like that can work. Okay. Will you be adding more coaching slots to your Patreon? Right now, probably not in the immediate future is my honest answer. We'll see come the mid-year. I mean, it's already, I would love to. I would really love to. Okay. I like doing it. But with the 3 jobs I currently have right now, I'm not exactly a man of washing free time. Tori said, I take the same approach to painting as Steve Martin did with the banjo. After 30 years of painting, I won't be too bad at it. There you go. That's right. Ben Bricko, hey, I don't know if you've gotten your MTG reference yet. There you go. But as someone who picked up Commander over the new year, which commanders would you recommend for a Seraphon player? I'm trying to think of if there's a legendary lizard wizard. There's got to be a lizard wizard somewhere. Do a search for legendary creature lizard wizard and then pick the one that you like. There you go. That's my answer. If you mean playstyle, if you like a sort of control-y bombastic playstyle, something in the Is It range or Simic range, both of which could be good. The new Luxa coming up out of Aether Drift, the sexy frog god lady, looks like a Seraphon to me, but a very different kind of Seraphon. Because yes, she's a sexy frog lady. I don't know what to do with that, but that's just the reality we all live in now, that has to exist. Let's see. When coming back to an army after some time, what's the best way to color match your previous work? Don't. Who cares? That's my answer. You're going to be adding highlights and shadows and midtones. The color matching doesn't work, or doesn't matter. Just find things that are in the general ballpark and you'll be fine. No one's going to know if you're slightly off on the color. It's just irrelevant. I guarantee I vary the paints I use over my armies. I guarantee all the pictures I've shared, I share my work constantly. I believe and nobody has ever said, wait a minute, is that ivory tone you use there a slightly different ivory tone than this other one? The answer is yes. No one will ever notice. I promise. It does not matter. That's a bag of bricks you are carrying for no one. Let it go. Okay. What does paint what you fear actually mean? Paint things you think will be unfun. Paint things that practice skills you want to work on. Paint things that practice skills you want to work on, right? I fear painting X, so I should do it that. I don't like drawing hands. You draw 100 hands a day for 100 days, you'll be the best at drawing hands, right? It's that kind of thing. Let's see. Granberg says, I've been experimenting with ChatGPT and having it run Monte Carlo simulations to test hypothetical matchups in Battletech. Do you think these analytical tools create an unfair advantage? No, I think they should be used by developers for insights and things like that into making the game smoother. Using that kind of AI for that kind of a discrete purpose, I think is actually a good use of AI. because it's not just out there stealing data or something. Like it's actually additive. Is there a good guide for what paints can touch up contrast paints? Well, you can always just put ivory over top of it and then re-hit it with the contrast paint. That's number one easiest way. But otherwise, just get whatever color looks close. Like model looks close, this looks close, good to go. Yeah, old Maroc sculpting videos, right? Thoughts on the LVO finals? I was happy to see City 1. Looked like a nice, interesting, varied list. 2 drops is still clearly a problem. We haven't added enough incentive to go higher than 2 drops, and we haven't added enough reasons to get out of Morbid and Primal. But hopefully that will come in the spring update. Let's see. What did you mean by making a triptych in one of your recent videos? 3 displays. It can be anything. Just like literally 3 display models together, set up as one display that when set next to each other tell some kind of evolving story to the viewer that emotionally resonates in some way. Speaking of Soulblight, the new Soulblight models look amazing, especially GW's paint jobs. How would you do the banner? Black to green cream glazing. Yeah, probably. Like you could, yeah, just glaze it out. I'd have to look at it, but yes, I'm sure something like that. Cruel Boys does have a high skill floor. That's true. What's it like to be internet famous, and when was the most inconvenient time you're recognized in public? I assure you, I am a normal guy. I am just a person, as my wife reminds me all the time. I don't know. There's literally nothing special about me. It's never been inconvenient. I'm always happy that if people recognize me and anything I've done gives them value, I'm happy to talk to them and help them. Like it happens at the grocery store or something, it'll be very funny. That's my answer, because I'm just like, I'm not in that mode, and then someone says something, it's very funny. It happened like when I was out getting lunch one random day at like a food hall. Let's see. Thank you for the Orcs video. That's great. What army do you have the least interest in owning playing? Fire Slayers. Easy answer. There you go. Thank you for everything you do. Starting Ironjaws because models are cool and stonks are low. With a Shaiish Ghost Army, would white skin with blue shadows be a good skin choice versus black rusted red armor? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I think that would look very cool. Yes, I had to think about that for a second, but yes. Even Steve won't find it, I promise. Hard to paint is often hard to see. Let it be. There you go. Thanks for all your tips and hard work. Let's see, I'm just scrolling down here. Michael Jacobs with a super chat. Thank you for all the amazing content. Please suggest a color scheme to make Maggotkin in a cold environment, considering saturation and balancing skin-heavy models and armored Blight King's Lords. Sure, absolutely. So my answer there is use desaturated cold greens, honestly. And purple shadows. That will, like, you go to green grays, like very gray infused greens at the high end. Mix a little white blue in for the highlights to highlight those green colors. Stay in that color. Army Painter has like almost the perfect range in their new Fanatic line for this. But those kind of like ghoul grays, those kinds of things are perfect. It will make it feel dead and cold. Put the reds and the purples down in the shadows, because that's what you get in the shadows of very cold temperatures. And with the armor, you're just going to, again, like desaturate out, keep the orange rust out of it. Instead, pit it with just a lot of like browns and cold browns and gray browns and stuff like that to make it seem more dead and gray and dusty and cold. There you go. That's my answer. Are there cheaper giant human models than GW? I want to practice skin, but Gargants cost a house. Oh yeah, many cheaper giants. Go get D&D models, like WizKids models and stuff like that. There's giants that like made for D&D games. That's your easy answer. Tons of skin and easy to practice. Are you doing any AOS events in the near future? Yeah, like 2 weeks from now, I'm going to Holy Wars. On a scale from John to Scott, how tall are you? I am in between the two of them. I am taller than John, but like an inch or two shorter than Scott. What colors could Seraphon be? Oh boy, anything. Like literally any color. That's what's amazing about them. There is no wrong answer. The Got says, I'm pretty new to the hobby and I feel like I'm crazy when it comes to a lot of faction terrain. The FEC piece is $50 for D3 Noble Deed points. What's the justification for these models existing? So they can sell you an extra model that costs $50, homie. That's the justification. Because that could just as easily be a rule that you pick a random piece of terrain. That's it. I wish there was a better answer. The justification is called capitalism. Have you seen an actual difference between the old and new game color of Leo paints? Haven't really played with the new game color ones yet. So there you go. Do you have a video on starting model painting? Yes, absolutely. I do. I have several on both beginning regular model painting as well as display model painting, 100%. As well as like Bust 101 and all that stuff. Used an airbrush for the very first time today. Definitely a skill to acquire and much to learn. Hey, absolutely. Do you ever look at other game systems for pieces to paint, such as some of the Resin Bee stuff or Conquest resin models? I mean, like, if they're good models and they catch my attention, I will paint anything. But a lot of other games have really bad models, is my answer there. But if they're good and cool, yeah, I'll paint anything, 100%. Okay. What's a healthy amount of models to batch paint when batch painting? 5 to 10, usually the right answer. I'm trying to make Magacan work, but I keep getting wiped off the table. Oh, God. No, I really don't. It's just an army in a very bad place right now. I really don't. But hit Tom up on Twitter or sorry, on X or whatever, on Blue Sky, all the places he is. I bet he has an opinion. So, like, he might have some answers for you. He's thought a lot more about Nurgle. So there you go. Okay. Actinold. Hey, Vince, following you from afar, but I heard you painted one of my sculpts and I can't find the picture. It was a Verminlord Deceiver proxy from Claybeast Creation. Yes, I did paint it. Absolutely. I sure did. That was a very fun model. That was you who sculpted that? That's cool. I love that. Yeah, reach out. Hit me up. Leave me a comment after the show, Actinold. I'd love to talk more to you. That was a very fun, very cool model. So, yes, I'll try to find a picture of it. I think it's going to be in the Skaven. I did a Skaven army video where I like showed you all my Skaven models in my massive army. He's in there somewhere, I know, so you can go check that out. But yeah, it's a great model. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hit up Paul. Hit up Radio Free Hammer Hall on Twitter as well. Yeah, Paul's done a lot of Nurgle too, absolutely. My wife and I are about to buy a house with a basement. Would love some insight into essentials for a hobby bunker. That would be a good video. Good shelves to store your models. Good desk, L-shaped desk. Good lights. You know, yeah, it's a good video idea. I'll think about it. Okay. No, David Heron, this wasn't the giant sexy rat lady. This was the Verminlord Deceiver, not the other one. I think the sculptor of the sexy rat ladies was also in the chat once, which was also very cool. Do you think we should fix every mistake and odd color spot on our models? Like I'm painting the big Lumineth cow, but I keep fixing a mistake just to make another one. No. Perfection is the enemy of done. You don't need to fix every mistake. You need to accept that like your model has mistakes on it, whether you see them or not, and move on. But like if you see it and you got the time, yeah, you should fix what's reasonable. If it looks bad, if it's in a very visible place, fix it. It's about finding the balance. All right, folks. I've been talking for like an hour and 15 minutes straight. And unfortunately, I got to call it a day. If I didn't get to your chat, please leave it down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer the questions. Thanks for hanging out with me today for this quick hotel show. Don't forget to come back next week for the 10th anniversary spectacular. That's right, 10 years of doing shows. We've never missed a week. We'll be back next week for that 10th anniversary spectacular. And there you go. A&W is the answer, JJ Duke. But thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who chatted, who asked questions, who super chatted. Thank you so much to everybody who supports this show all the time. Hit like, hit subscribe, do all those things that make dings. I so deeply appreciate all of you. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day wherever you are. If you're in sort of the polar chill that's here in the U.S., I hope you stay warm. But otherwise, thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.